there was questions I always asked myself, would I be accepted in that position? And when I won, at Bash of the Beach, all those questions were answered because the fans were really excited to see Booker T, the kid who worked his way up from the bottom in a tag team, and then, branched off into singles wrestling to go all the way to the top of the pinnacle to win the heavyweight championship and then close the company down, as champion and as U.S. champion was something, a great feat for me, a great task that had been completed. And but it was something I never saw coming in a million years.
To this day, Vince Russo still claims or declares that the heavyweight championship is nothing but a prop in the storyline. How do you feel about the current value of the heavyweight title?
I don't look at the heavyweight championship as a prop or a storyline. I feel like the guy who worked his way to that position, he should have worked his way to that position. If it's just given to you, I would call it a prop. But for myself, it meant a whole lot, and still does mean a whole lot, getting to that pinnacle. And like I say, for the fans to want me in that position, it let me know that it just wasn't a prop. Of course, wins and losses in wrestling, hadn't really meant a whole lot to me, but winning the heavyweight championship means the world.
You were the final champion for WCW on the final edition Nitro. The night that you saw Shane McMahon and Vince McMahon on a Nitro broadcast, what went through your mind in terms of your future, and would you have a spot in the WWE?
A lot of people on that night were really, really sad. Actually, one guy asked me, "Man, aren't you going to be sad? Don't you feel sad? WCW is closing." I'm like, not really, because, it's life. I saw it coming a year before, as far as WCW's demise. I didn't know it was going to get bought by WWE, WWF at that time. But for myself, I'm a performer. I always knew it was going to be a spot there for me because I felt like I was willing to go work for that spot. I didn't want to carry in, my accolades from WCW to WWE and expect for them to treat me a certain way. I wanted to go out and prove myself that I was worthy to be amongst the elite in professional wrestling and wrestle the elite in professional wrestling. And I think I proved that. It took me 5 years to get my title back in WWE, but I finally got it back, and I got it back as king. I got it back as champion of champions, and I felt like when I got it, it was fitting and it was time.
When you finally made the pinnacle in your first match in WWE, Buff Bagwell, a lot of critics took a big fat dump on that one. Well, how did you feel about it? And after the match, were you concerned that maybe you might have been guilty by association because of the outcome of that match?
No, I never felt like it was going to be guilt by association. I made sure of it that it wasn't going to be guilt by association. Exactly. I made sure I let that be known that, hey, you screwed up out there. It had nothing. When I got it, it was fitting and it was time.
When you finally made the pinnacle in your first match in WWE, Buff Bagwell, a lot of critics took a big fat dump on that one. Well, how did you feel about it? And after the match, were you concerned that maybe you might have been guilty by association because of the outcome of that match?
No, I never felt like it was going to be guilt by association. I made sure of it that it wasn't going to be guilt by association. Exactly. I made sure I let that be known that you screwed up out there. It had nothing to do with me. And oh my God, I got delayed. They knew that night it wasn't about Bagwell against Booker T. That night actually was about WWF against WCW. Who was the best? Who had the best wrestlers? And they proved it that night somewhat by putting Bagwell, a guy who really wasn't ready to go out and perform that night at his highest level. I felt like I was ready to perform at my highest level, and it just clashed. It was oil and water mixed, and it showed to them that they were better than us, and that's really what that was about.
Now, you were a big part of the big invasion angle, WCW versus the WWE under Vince McMahon's banner. What were the expectations for that, and why do you think it ultimately failed?
Well, I think it failed. It was a good concept, them against us. But it failed because WCW at that time had no soldiers to go into a war. Literally we had, WWE, they had all the soldiers in the world they could throw out at us at that time. The Rock, Triple H, Undertaker, Kane. They had so many guys there to throw into that war. WCW at that time, we had a few guys, but maybe the past 2 to 3 years, a lot of those guys were just,
For sure.
You know, having a good time. They really wouldn't. They never thought WCW would ever fold. In essence, they wasn't prepared for a war. You know, we went in. And it was built for us to lose that war, and actually we lost it.
Do you think it was a fair fight, though? I mean, the real WCW was full of the Stings and the Goldbergs, and when you're going up against the Rock and the Austins, you got the Mike Sanders and the Elix Skippers. Was it fair?
No, it wasn't a fair war at all. You know, and it wasn't meant to be a fair war. One thing I think Vince McMahon, he's a businessman. He's a shrewd businessman, and at all costs, he wants to win. And to show that he won that war, that battle that had been going on for so many years, you know, as a feather in his cap. And I think it was something that he had to put out there just to feel good about himself, which if I was in that position, you know, how I would have done it. You know, I really can't question, you know, how he did that. So, but as far as it being fair, no, it wasn't fair. But sometimes life isn't fair.
You know, people always question the politics that go on in the locker room. And since you're one of the leaders of WCW, going into a WWE locker room, what were some of the bigger differences that you noticed in the two atmospheres?
Oh, man. Definitely politics play a lot into WWE's you know, I guess the way they run their company. You're always getting tested, not drug tested, mentally tested. It's always, you gotta always think that way when you're there. You never can relax because someone is there to take your spot, and they're looking for someone to take your spot. I would say when you get there, you just better be ready for the business at hand, because it's not going to be any fun anymore. It's all work, it's all business, and it's a lot of politics. Myself, I never played the politic role. I never, you know, lobbied for certain angles or anything like that. Always let my talent speak for itself. Whatever position you put me in, I'm going to make that position the best position, no matter if it's with gold dust, you know, no matter, you know, whatever it may be. I'm going to go out there and I'm going to make the best of that situation. And in the end, you know, whatever situation I was in, the fans pretty much supported me.
You know, you wrestled just about every major performer in the last 20 years. You wore every strap that's ever been created. When did you know that it was time for you to leave the WWE? When did you know that Booker T's run was over?
Well, my run wasn't over, but I felt like it was time for me to step down from WWE. I had been there for 7 years, and what really it had nothing to do with wrestling that you know, kind of made me see things from a different perspective. It was I know I left, you know, WCW, I guess it was 2000, and I remember back in WCW, I used to have a lot of fun, you know, outside of work, and I used to, you know, go fishing, you know, golfing, you know, whatever it may be. And I woke up one day, and my wife wanted to go fishing. I got a boat, and I looked on my boat, and the sticker said January 2000, and the year was 2006. And so that means I hadn't been on my boat in 6 years. I had been working for 6 years straight, and I really didn't even notice it. And I didn't really notice that 7 year, you know, almost time span had gone by. And I knew then it was time for me to step back, because I could be one of those guys who could now wake up one day and miss out on life. Yeah.
Speaking of which, before you left, you had a little bit of a scuffle backstage with Batista during the SummerSlam shoot.
Oh my God!
Standing word around the campfire, he's flapping off the lips. He's the best guy in the roster. Blah blah blah.
I was going to win.
It didn't sit too well with you, and I heard you were on top. What happened there?
Well, actually, I mean, he said a lot of stuff, you know. I mean, him and I, we squashed the bug, you know, as far as that go. But I think he learned a lot, you know, about the business from that incident. It had nothing to do with him and I, so to speak. It was about respect for the business and the guys who, you know, laid the foundation, you know, paved the road, you know, that you're going to be riding on. You should give those guys respect. Not just myself, a lot of other guys on the roster, but just for the record, I didn't call Batista out or anything. He actually, you know, called me out in the fight, and I was just actually defending myself. And one thing you got to know about a person is what they've gone through, what their background is. And I'm a pretty good fighter, even though I don't, you know, go go around acting like that, or anything, but fighting is my passion. Fighting is something that I grew up with. Muhammad Ali was my idol. I'm a boxing historian. There's nothing you can ask me about the sport that I don't know about. I've actually trained in the sport for many years. I never actually had a fight, but I've grew up fighting my whole life, and I think he just chose the wrong person to pick a fight with.
Now, I hear he's trying to get into mixed martial arts. I mean, that could be a huge payday for you and an easy win.
One thing I say about guys who, Batista's, like I say, I have no animosity against him at all. But one thing about, going in someone's backyard, it could be very, very dangerous. They could have a big dog back there. They could have a big gun, something. So be careful going in somebody else's backyard, because you can get really, really hurt, especially guys who doing MMA these days. They've been doing it for a long time. I don't know what his background is, but a lot of those guys been fighting since they were kids. And when you go in there and try to take somebody's steak, be ready to, get into a real fight. You can really, really get hurt. So I say to him, think about what you're doing before you, get into it. Be careful what you ask for. You might get it.
No, I mean, after being, I guess, on the grandest stages of them all, as they call it, WrestleMania and the WWE, you ended up going to TNA. What was the atmosphere like? Did it feel like it was working for a smaller company? Did you enjoy working with an upstart, working with the younger talents, and trying to mold them into hopefully the future legends?
Definitely, that was my goal going to TNA. My goal going there, I had a meeting with the guys, all of the young guys, when I first got there, just to tell those guys that it wasn't about me at all. It was about them. It was about me helping them get to the level that they strive to get to, and whatever I could do to help them, that's what I was there for. And I think I did that. I think you can talk to any one of the guys, any one of the younger guys, AJ, Joe, Rude, Black Machismo, and all of those guys will tell you that I helped them immensely in so many different ways. And I really felt like that's what the company needed, the direction that they're going in right now. I think they're off track a little bit. I think they're searching. They're throwing stuff against the wall and hoping something stick. But I think they should focus more on their youth movement.
Their creative direction has been a big
because my default character, so I can
online. Just anybody, even workers, it's just not clear on what's going on. They can't understand the storylines. I mean, where do you see areas of opportunity for that company?
Opportunities are. I tell you what, opportunities aren't going to come. Opportunities are going to keep passing that company by if they don't come to a collective, way of agreeing and disagreeing with each other. They need a staff. They need one thing WWE has that TNA doesn't have is years and years. Hundreds of years of experience, as well as a group of 20 and 25-year-old kids that's, coming up with ideas, and then putting them together, you can really come up with a storyline. The Nexus thing is nothing no more than the Main Event Mafia, against the young guys against the older guys, the established guys against the guys who are trying to get established. And that's a concept that can't go wrong if you do it right. And I felt like Main Event Mafia was something that really could have taken off, and I just felt like by not having a committee to be able to bounce things off of and be able to, like I say, agree to disagree, leave your ego outside when we're inside, trying to conduct business. When you got someone who don't want to, accept advice from anyone and write the show, it's just going to be a problem. I do a show once a month in Houston, and it's a local independent company, and it's hard for me to come up with ideas on a month-to-month basis, so I can imagine what it's like to write a 2-hour show. Only one person writing that show. You're only getting one idea. You only get, you may like it. It may be funny to you, but it may not be funny to everybody else. It may be entertaining to you, but it may not be entertaining to everybody else. So that's where a group of committee would, would really complete TNA as far as where they're trying to go.
Tell us a little bit about your promotion and where fans can find out about it. And so, who are some of your standout students?
Go to BookerTPWA.com. That's BookerTPWA.com. My promotion is going well. We've been doing it for 4 years now as far as my